But you do get accustomed to being sick for the first time on your own.
What part of Canada was it?
I was in Toronto.
In Toronto. How was that?
I did not believe I could accomplish by doing exactly that. And remember, given my academic history, I literally had no confidence that I was smart enough to do a PhD. I did not believe I was smart enough to go to university in the first place. So being in a PhD program, which definitely is for bright people, but I knew that first step was just to get started. If I wasn't able to finish, no big deal. I have experience, under my belt, so to speak. But by just taking it literally one step at a time, I ended up reaching my goal.
Amazing. And a lot of things happened in that time. We'll talk about when you got that thing, but you got married before you went back to the PhD program, right?
Yes, so at the very start of the PhD program. So at this point, I am, 27 years old. And PhD programs, the average length of time at the time to complete a PhD in economics was like 7 years. And so the idea of sort of postponing the start of my life to be in school until I'm maybe 35 was not appealing. And so I made a decision not to postpone the start of my life. I got married, had a child, and just sort of accepted that academic work was actually my career. Whether I was doing it in a program or as a job didn't really matter. So I got my personal life going, and that was a great decision. The support I got from my wife was incredible and helped me to make it to completing the PhD.
And so you're at this point and you do your coursework and you write this dissertation. Can you remember what it was about?
Yes, of course. So it was titled Monetary Transmission Mechanisms in Externally Dependent Economies, in small, open, externally dependent economies. Which is to say, without calling the name, Jamaica. And what I was looking at was how monetary policy works. Monetary policy is the central banks manipulating the supply of money in the economy. And I was looking at, in the circumstances of Jamaica, a small open economy, and the importance of foreign exchange. What those circumstances would do to how economists believe monetary policy works, and if it makes monetary policy more difficult or may have perverse consequences. And I did discover a few things that were interesting. So that's, it turned out to be academically interesting.
That's awesome. Is there anything that's still very relevant right now?
The circumstances now are different. Back then, Jamaica had exchange controls. And that was where the perverse results came in. And highlighted why exchange controls, which are, limits on the ability of individuals and companies to buy and sell foreign exchange. So when you have exchange controls, anybody can just walk into a bank and buy US dollars. Only people who are licensed to do so, and they are licensed for particular amounts. And it really showed why there are additional reasons, in addition to the inconvenience and in addition to how it constrains the ability of your economy to grow. So my work revealed some additional reasons why exchange controls are not a good idea.
I'm curious about that, based on what goes on now today with exchanges.
Well, you see, now Jamaica does not have exchange controls and benefits greatly from the fact that we have an open and flexible foreign exchange market. So, you want to take a trip and you want to take a trip, or you want to import some raw materials, you go to your bank and you buy the foreign exchange. And you can import whatever you want and produce whatever you want. And the exchange rate is also not controlled. So it rises and falls on a daily basis to reflect inflows and outflows. And that allows the economy to maximize its productivity and exploit opportunities as they arise.
Okay. All right. Thank you for explaining. And so you're at the point where you defend this PhD and you're still doubtful. Why are you doubtful that you're actually going to get this
Well,
thing?
I didn't have the academic confidence to think I would ever finish. Even after I had drafted my the last of my three papers that made up my dissertation. And even after my advisor said that he thought that the work was adequate enough for me to defend it. Because I'm not defending it in front of him alone. There is the rest of the committee, and there are others who come into the room when you're doing your defense. So another of the lessons that I learned, and that I have learned, is that everything in life benefits from preparation. I'll give you one tiny example. I have been obliged to make a lot of presentations in my life, including all the times I show up in a classroom and have to present the lecture for that day. And as much as I am experienced in giving speeches and presentations and lectures, I always rehearse. So even something you think you know how to do, you should rehearse it. Even something that you think does not itself benefit from rehearsal, benefits from rehearsal. And so my best friend at the time, to whom I remain grateful, said that, I know you're going to rehearse it, I'll be your audience. So we went into one of the classrooms the day before. It was in the evening, and I went through my presentation. It took about 40 minutes. And we went through it a second time. Took about 35 minutes a second time. And I thought I was ready now. And by this time, it's 11 o'clock at night. And New York is a big city. Both of us live quite far from where the classroom we were in at NYU. And after the second time, I went through and, edited my notes and struck out things, because we had been told that my dissertation advisor, my principal dissertation advisor, is a stickler for time. And he's going to tell you how much time you have to present. And at the end of that time, he expects you to stop talking. And my friend said to me, so I said I was fine, 2 rehearsals, I'm great. He says, okay, let's do one more.
That's a great friend.
Love him.
That's a great friend.
And I was tired, but we did it one more time. And so my presentation notes were all marked up. Mm-hmm. So the following day now, dissertation time come, I go into the room, and he says, the dissertation head of my committee says to me, okay, you have 20 minutes. So I looked at my notes. I knew exactly how long each part of it took. Made some X's and check marks, took off my watch, set it down, noted the time, and I started talking. And I concluded at 19 minutes and 36 seconds. And the smile on his face, I'm getting goosebumps. The smile on his face gave me goosebumps. I realized he was satisfied and he appreciated it. And, they asked me some questions. But as I said, because I never had the confidence, after I left the room and they had their discussions, and he came out and he offered his hand to me, that was the first time I realized that, yes, I'm going to finish. And even though it was not the best dissertation he had ever seen, not even close. Let's be clear on that. But he did say to me afterwards, it was the best dissertation defense that he had experienced. Because I prepared and because I rehearsed.
20 minutes is short. I'm sorry, that's criminal.
Really short. It's
How
really
many
short.
years did it take you to write that PhD?
For 2.5 years of research and writing.
Well, good job again. For how many years ago? So you have this PhD now. What does that mean for you, for your family, and where
Well,
you stand?
so I wanted an academic career, and so I had to postpone it because this was, the end of the 1980s, and at the time, and still, consumer durables are expensive in Jamaica. So we never doubted that we were coming back to Jamaica.
Why?
By this point, we had 2 children. We never doubted we didn't even have a discussion about staying and living in the US. There is an intangible about belonging, about feeling a part of the society in which you live, in talking and sounding the way the people around you talk and sound, and being immersed in that culture. So I grew up being a fan of football and cricket. Well, there's no cricket in the US. Well, there's cricket in the US now. But, I wanted to go to Savannah Park and watch the West Indies play. I wanted to be able to round up my friends for a game of dominoes easily on the weekends without having to travel literally an hour and a half and plan it from 2 months in advance. I wanted to be able to buy a patty. Yeah, you can buy patties in New York.
I was going to say that.
But you have to travel. You have to travel a good distance and pay a lot for it. So, yeah, it's just a personality thing. Some people have that ability to adapt and thrive in any environment. Great credit to them, great respect to them. But there are not, for that, there are not a lot of places in the world where I want to live. So we were coming back anyway. But it made sense to earn a New York salary for a couple of years so that we could bring back all the expensive things. And so that was the plan. So I worked for 2 years at the United Nations and made sure, in that time we bought the fridge and the stove and the car and the piano and all of the things that, would have set us back quite a bit in Jamaica. Packed it up in the trailer, and once the 2 years was done and we had everything we wanted, packed it up in the trailer and came home.
So what was the UN job? What was it like?
I was assigned to do economic intelligence on Europe, so to keep up with developments in European economies and write reports on that.
How did that shape the way that you do your job now in Jamaica and in SIDS type countries?
It made me realize that I wanted to have work that was more impactful. Now, the UN is an important agency, but the levels of administrative bureaucracy and management means that you don't see the impact of what you have done in a meaningful way. By the time it ends up being, your 50-page report ends up being 2 sentences that have been, in many cases massaged, and therefore not having the impact that you really want to have. And 2 ways to have impact is one is to teach, and the other one is to work in a think tank.
Okay, and you've
so
done
that's
both.
what I ended up doing for the rest of my life after I came back to Jamaica.
All right. So what year did you get back to Jamaica?
Came back in 1992.
1992, and you come back to the UWI job?
Straight to the UWI job.
Straight to the UWI job. And at the housing, university housing?
And university housing.
Okay. And what was that transition back like? So at this point, you would have been in New York for a couple of years.
I'd been in New York for 8 years.
8 years?
Yes. I mean, it's a transition, But it wasn't a difficult transition for me. It's home. And
How old were the children?
So at that point we had 2 children. The eldest one was 7. The youngest one was 2.
So you were back and were your family around, available for support?
Yep.
Okay. So
We came back 2 weeks before my second child's second birthday, because when they're 2 years old, you have to pay for them.
So we avoided the plane fare.
Yeah.
That's
Hello.
great. I love it. I love it. I understand
We
it.
spent all of our money on those
On the
consumer
stuff.
durables.
I get
Okay?
it. I
There was
get
not
it.
a lot left over. We're starting over.
I 100% get it. And so you start on this journey as an educator. You, by your terms, based on how academics work, right? Publishing is the currency, and you say for you, it wasn't that great in terms of publishing.
Right. I mean, let's be very clear on this. I've not had a stellar academic career when it comes on to publishing. Okay? I published a few things, which I'm proud of and happy about. But by international standards, it was, let me see if I can find a polite word, modest.
Fair, but your impact wasn't modest. People know you from how many students you've taught, and you're a Twitter favorite now. How did that come about?
That came about by accident. So, family is really important to me. I was raised by my parents in a situation where family was important to them. So, I come to my own family and take it for granted that you want to be a part of everything they do. And so every time any of my children, by this time I had 3, a third one came along, was engaged in any activity, I was there. And my youngest son took a liking to cricket. And so whatever I was doing, whatever obligations I had, I would take time off to go and watch his games. And other family members who were not present would be texting me, SMS now, this is before WhatsApp, asking, what was the score? How many runs he has made. And I was doing this sort of bilaterally with 3 or 4 family members, which was distracting. And then I discovered Twitter, now X, on which you can put a message and everybody can see it. So I started this account just to, put my son's cricket scores. And the next thing I know, some fellow board member is following the account. Well, no, I don't want to have any of that. I don't want to be sharing that with some random person. And at the time, I didn't know that you could make a Twitter account private. So that was out. And I said to myself, well, now I have this Twitter account, what can I do with it? And I established essentially one principle, that I was going to post any thought or experience that might be appealing to a random person, to a broad audience. So not the, boy, I'm tired, I don't feel like getting up this morning. Or, I've just prepared the most delicious fried chicken, which one of my colleagues posted, and my response to it was, am I invited? Like, why are you telling me? So, any experience or a thought that I thought would have broad appeal, broad interest, and that had to do with developments in the economy, as well as many other things. And then, to my surprise, people start following me. And the thing just grew and grew and grew and grew.
I love it. You should check him out. He's very informative and also has a dry wit that's very engaging and entertaining.
And the paradox is that I'm not really on social media, you know. I don't have a TikTok account. I have an Instagram account, but I don't post on it. I only have it literally to follow the posts of my children, who don't post a lot either. So I'm not really on Instagram either. I have a Facebook account that I never checked more than once every 6 months, and haven't checked now in I don't know when. And I don't follow a lot of people on Twitter/X. So I'm not a social media person. So I don't fully understand this Twitter thing. I don't fully understand the interest and the little tiny celebrity that comes from it.
I think that's why it works. You don't take it too seriously. You're not too invested. You just
And-
post what
and-
you're posting and go.
And the ones that take off always come as a surprise to me.
They say that about hit songs as well. So let's talk about CAPRI. What's CAPRI? What's your mandate? What's your mission?
The origin of CAPRI is actually quite interesting. So there was an academic project that a few of us got together and engaged in 18 years ago to try to understand the paradox of Jamaica's economy and Jamaica's development. If you were an economist and you flew over the world in 1962 when Jamaica became independent, and you looked at the conditions of the countries then and asked them to pick their favorite economy as the one that was going to be the economic growth star, the one that was going to become, let us call it, the Singapore, most economists would have picked Jamaica. It had a lot of what we know to be the advantages, the predispositions for rapid economic growth. Being English speaking helps you because that was the currency, that was the language of international commerce. Being an island helps because transportation of cargo by sea is cheaper than by land. So you need ports, you need access to ports. The English speaking colonies tended to have done better on average than the colonies of the Portuguese and the Spanish and the French. So we had that as well. We were in the middle of what turned out to be the busiest shipping lane in the world, from the Panama Canal up to the east coast of the US. We didn't have any long-standing historical, deep, ethnic or religious divisions. But those advantages have not been manifest. Those advantages turned out not to have presaged rapid economic growth. Indeed, when you look at the performance of the Jamaican economy in the half a century right after independence, on average, we're pretty much stagnated. So the question we asked ourselves as a multidisciplinary group of academics was, why? Why did this happen? What was the failing?